In case you don't know, I'm Al Roker, and I want to welcome you to the Girl Starter Roundtable. All right, you may know me from the Today Show on NBC and on the Weather Channel, but I also am the CEO of Al Roker Entertainment, one of the companies that produced Girl Starter. Now, it's going to start airing on TLC this Friday at 7 o'clock. My more important role is a dad. I've got a teenage son, but I also have two daughters and two girls, and that's why producing Girl Starter was so important. We've got two great guests to start off today. They are two of the featured folks on the Girl Starter show on TLC, Friday, 7 o'clock. Tiffany Carvahlo is she's one of the lucky 8 women chosen for Girl Starter. And Collete Davis is the host of Girl Starter, as well as an aspiring entrepreneur and race car driver, which is so cool. A little bit later, we're going to be talking to the co-founder and chief creative officer of Girl Starter, Dani Davis, and Tiffany Pham, the founder and CEO of Mogul. It's a platform that reaches 18 million women sharing information worldwide. Again, we are live on Facebook and on Twitter. If you have questions, just scroll, type them in the scroll, or hashtag Girl Starter. Now, to give you an idea of what the show is, and before we talk to these very fascinating ladies, let's check out a clip from Girl Starter.
8 young women, all who aspire to make their mark in the startup world. Now, they'll have their chance. We call them Girl Starters.
Oh my God, it's real.
Girls who are smart, driven, passionate, and ready to risk it all for the chance to launch their own business. 2 more. They will compete for the chance to win $100,000 of seed money and services from Girl Starter, the revolutionary company that powers the next generation of female leaders and innovators.
This is your chance, after all, to get us really excited about your business.
They'll be tested like never before as we challenge their grit.
I think y'all are overstepping boundaries.
Their passions, and their big idea.
Self-care is the new healthcare. Oh no!
Each week, our starters will be given the tools and knowledge they need to build their businesses.
So do we get to see the product that you guys have come up with?
Some will succeed, and some will fail.
But it's time to clean out your desks. You've been eliminated.
Girls who run the world start here. Welcome to Girl Starter.
All right. Guys, when you watch that, what goes through your mind?
Just can't believe it's happening. Like, it's so crazy to see it, like, in edit form. Like, it's happening. It's on TLC tomorrow. It's really crazy, and it's really exciting.
It also takes my mind back to the moment when everything happened, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to like relive this. This is hilarious. Like,
wow. Well, having been part of this, I got to tell you, it's pretty exciting, and I got to meet so many great women, you young women. And Collete, I mean, and this is not to sound so incredulous, but how old are you, if I can ask?
I'm 23.
Okay, you're 23. You're an entrepreneur, and you're in a fairly male-dominant sport of race car driving. How did you get into that?
I started racing at a really young age, but no one in my family was ever into it, so I had to find it on my own. I was always taking stuff apart, really interested in the mechanical side of cars, and when I stepped in a go-kart for the first time, I knew that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So racing hit me pretty hard when it finally got me.
And in a sense, I mean, this is a really adrenaline-filled version of STEM.
Yes. I mean, racing is science. I mean, you're constantly working with your team, your engineers, setting up the car differently, like making a bunch of different changes. So you need to understand science, technology, and engineering to be a good race car driver. So it's a nice sport that melds a bunch of different things into it.
And it's also, I mean, in a sense, you're an entrepreneur as well. Tell me about your entrepreneurial side.
For me, my racing career has always had to be a business. My company is just a little differently. Me as an athlete, you're selling different things, you're offering different things to partners and sponsors in exchange for getting them on TV, racing with me and putting together a program. So my business and my startup is just a little bit different than most.
Mm-hmm. So Tiffany, you have a lot of passion, a lot of energy. I mean, you bring a spark to what you do. What was the experience like for you and Girl Starter?
well, one of my mottos is kind of like, I may not always know what I'm going to be doing next, or I may not know what I'm doing, but chances are I'm probably really passionate about it because it's just how I am. So for me, the whole experience was really fun, really challenging. It taught me a lot about myself and about just what it's like to be in the startup world, because it was never a trajectory I saw myself, I never saw my life doing, going in that direction. So it was really fun and really great for me. I got to make a lot of new friends. I got to be around women that just all support each other, and that was the coolest thing.
It's interesting you bring that up. I was just going to ask because, we have the stereotypical thing that you put women in a room together and the knives come out and this cattiness, and everything I saw was 180 degrees from that.
Yeah. Everybody always asks. They're like, what was it like being around a bunch of women? I'm like, actually, it was great. They're like, there were no arguments like that. Like, we were all really supportive of each other, and people are always shocked by that for some reason.
Well, I tell you, it's stereotypes, really hurt everybody.
Yeah.
Not just the people that they're directed at, but the people who are, kind of buying into that because it doesn't give them a chance to know people who they really are. Exactly. They just kind of look at something. We've got a question coming in for Collete. So what was a motivating force to take you to your next level?
I mean, for me, next level, maybe if they're asking about racing, it was really just you have to believe in yourself first and knowing 100% that you can achieve your goal. Before I ever became a professional race car driver, I walked into meetings and I told people I was a professional race car driver. That's how I would introduce myself before it ever happened.
So be who you want to be.
Yes. And believe it, because if you have to believe in yourself 100% before you can expect other people to.
All right. Well, we want to give people another taste of Girl Starter. So here's another little bit of a clip from the show. And Lucy, thank you for the question. Now let's take another look at Girl Starter.
In business, really doing anything, it's about grit.
Women are 51% of the U.S. population, but only 4.2% of companies in the Fortune 500 have female CEOs. Girl Starter, a new media company, seeks to change the statistics, giving young women the tools they need to start their own companies. The show Girl Starter follows 8 girls as they compete for the chance to win $100,000 in services and funding.
Power on, starters!
I got to tell you, as a producer, but even as the father of 2 girls, this was just really a labor of love. And I think one of the things you really should do, you check out girlstarter.com. We've got bonus content. There's a Girl Starter curriculum, and we've even got Girl Starter GIFs or GIFs. I never quite know whether it's a GIF or a GIF. What the heck is it? But they're created by Giphy or Jiffy. I guess Jiffy would be like the popcorn. Giphy, it's probably Giphy. That's what I'm going with. I'm going to go with Giphy. All right. Well, by the way, and as you can see there, we are really excited to have 2 women here who are really instrumental in this show. Dani Davis is the Chief Creative Officer of Girl Starter, LLC. And Tiffany Pham is the founder and CEO of Mogul, which I like the sound of that. It's the Mogul. I like that. So, Dani, where did this come from? How did this get started?
This started with a friend of my son, my friend Noah's friend Julia Collins. She was 16 at the time, and I brought her to an event I was hosting for my university on Women in Venture. And Julia approached me at the end of the event and said, Dani, I think you're all having this conversation too late, and if you want to make a change and bring more women into business venture, you're going to have to start while they're my age, while they're moldable. That was 3 years ago this week, Al. And it's magic to me that 3 years after Julia put that forward, she, her mom, Janine Chow Collins, her dad, Chris Collins, and I have had the privilege of making this come alive. It's really thrilling.
You know, I when I tell people about this, I say it's kind of a female millennial Shark Tank in a sense.
Oh, I love that. Right. Right.
Shark Tank for girls.
For girls.
For girls. For girls. And let me ask you about that because for a while, if you were to address a woman or young women as girls, people would say, oh no, we're not girls, we're women. But there's been kind of a little shift in that terminology.
For sure.
It's not perceived as a negative.
Yeah, I think what actually we're both accomplishing with Girl Starter and Mogul is to help redefine words that had been previously defined for us. So Mogul, for example, had been a word that had been largely attributed to men before I started Mogul. And it was a shame that that word should be successful businessman only. But now, you know, after years of working on Mogul, if you Google the word Mogul, we're in the #1 search result. So we're helping to redefine that word for the next generation of girls to know that they too can be moguls. And I think with Girl Starter, you're redefining that word to be such a positive, powerful word.
It's full of hope. It's full of possibility. It's full of new beginnings. There's such a great spirit in the word girl.
And Girl Starter isn't as, and look, I take great pride in this show. I think it's a really terrific show, but it's not just the reality program. This is a multi-tiered effort.
That's right. And if we think about the beauty of this reality program being the gateway to the platform that is Girl Starter, which is a digital platform and a social platform, live streams, and our curriculum, the Started program on that platform, so that girls will see our girls on the show starting tomorrow night, and they'll be able to go to girlstarter.com and start to build their own thing. And they'll get the benefit of your wisdom and Tiffany's wisdom and all of the beautiful people who've come to work on the show. They can click on videos where those people are giving them great advice, and they can use the curriculum to build something, reach out to us over social media, ask us questions. It's a thrill to us to democratize access to these tools for them.
The other part of this, we make no mistake, you know, there are sponsors of the program.
Yes.
But what I find fascinating, and having watched this from the ground up, is that unlike a lot of times with branded entertainment or entertainment that has sponsors, the sponsor, okay, this is my message, this is what I want to do, and that's not what happened here with the folks who helped present this.
We call them Girl Starter moments. What happened was all of these amazing partners, Staples, AT&T, Vera Bradley, Visa, Microsoft, Claire Boone, they all came to bear on the work we were doing and said, how can we help teach and inform this generation around best business practices, right? And then knowing they wanted to reach them in an authentic manner, the combination of how can we help and we want to reach them was a beautiful alchemy, right? And so you'll see on the show these opportunities where the executives from these companies work directly with our girls and bring incredible insight, you know, on amazing business opportunities. It was you're right, Al, this was a great and powerful way to integrate people.
And what was so amazing was that behind the scenes, you know, they would come onto the show and aim to deliver in one way in terms of support. But by the time they participated and worked with the girls, they got so passionate and so involved that then their plans for even further support suddenly, you know, inspired them to want to provide even more and more.
That was, and we called them Girl Starter moments, and they were happening all the time. And you're right, we were in the green room, and someone from the company would say, "This was amazing," and it was a constant "and," which just tells us how important a movement this is, right? We're all ready for this.
Yep.
We're ready to make it happen.
So Tiffany, how did you start your business?
Well, I started my business actually as a young girl at age 14. I came up with the idea because my family had been in media for many generations, working to provide information access to the world in different ways. All throughout Asia, for example, my great uncle, my grandmother running facets of newspapers, magazines, etc. And so I actually wanted to be like my grandmother growing up because of that.
Oh, great.
And so I always expected to follow in her footsteps, but it wasn't until I was one day uprooted from Paris, France to Plano, Texas, that I all of a sudden started to really realize that this was my dream, to follow in her footsteps, when I started to have to overcome these challenges of not knowing the English language at age 10 and learning from TV shows instead, and seeing how powerful
Probably watched a lot of
media.
the Today Show.
I did. I was watching you growing up. And then, you know, could already see how powerful media could be for learning and education, and that really shaped my early childhood. until one day when I was 14, when my grandmother passed away, and I made a promise to her that day that I would do everything I could to follow in her footsteps, and I would dedicate my life towards providing information access to the world like she had. So ever since that moment, since I was 14, that's all I've ever worked towards. And so I subsequently ended up applying to Yale and Harvard Business School, saying, please give me a chance. I know I can do this one day, follow in my grandmother's footsteps, create this company for women to empower them and enable them, providing information access. And then for years, I spent years across the media industry with BBC, HBO, CBS. But at nights, I would take on side hustles. Even at CBS, even though I had an important role and it was great as a young executive, leading TV, radio stations, websites, mobile properties, etc. At nights, I would still take on more jobs in order to learn every facet possible to create this company one day. So I took on 2 jobs simultaneously at nights, one of which was with the Vice Mayor of Beijing, partnering with the Beijing government to create a new venture here in the US, bridging cultural gaps between US and China within the media entertainment sphere. And then the third job I had was producing feature films and documentaries, whereby I became one of the producers behind the first North American feature film to ever feature a man with Down syndrome in the lead role, which helped to establish a new standard in the film industry for new talent and new voices. And so by that time, I was in my early 20s, mid-20s at this time, and all of a sudden one day I woke up and found myself on this random list of Forbes 30 Under 30, and all these young women around the world started to write me letters asking how I had these 3 jobs and how could they get these jobs as well, and they wondered if I could give them advice. So I would write them back every single day. I would write back to hundreds of letters, and then it became thousands of letters. And that's when I started to realize that they were telling me these letters were changing their lives, that my advice had helped them. So they wondered if I could write them more. And that's when I came up with the idea for Mogul, that perhaps instead of all this one-on-one behind the scenes, what if we had a platform whereby millions of us could share our obstacles and struggles and challenges and share information and insights amongst each other and become that much better and stronger together. So then the final part was that I'd written a book at that time, From Business Strategy to IT Roadmaps, and it inspired me to teach myself how to code and build the platform myself. So every single night at 3 a.m., I just teach myself Ruby on Rails after all my jobs. And then after a couple of weeks, built the first iteration of Mogul and sent it off, and it became essentially used and accessed by 1 million users within its first week, becoming the fastest growing content platform for women.
Oh, you're a real slacker.
So you can see why we asked her to be a
I would say so.
Show.
My golly, wow. We got a question from our audience. Karen asking, how did we choose the girls to be on Girl Starter?
Oh, that was exciting. So Karen, we had the worst looking flyer that went out last June. It was really horrible looking. And there was basically no information on it out. It went out through organizations working with girls.
As my daughter would say, this looks a little sketch.
It was a little sketch. It was a little sketch, but it went out anyway. And to business classes, community organizations working with entrepreneurial young women, universities. And in fact, I think it was Tiffany who was here just a little while ago, who when a professor of hers sent her the flyer, Tiffany thought it was a joke and didn't respond. It was that sketch. So that went out last June. However, this year, of course, we'll be able to use our platform and our social channels to encourage.
Not quite a sketch.
It won't be quite a sketch.
Yeah, we like that. Although there is something kind of rogue about it.
Yeah, it was
like
kind of
sketchy.
scrappy startup.
That's a scrappy startup.
Scrappy startup.
Scrappy.
Yeah.
Here's another question. This one's from Marcia. What's the first thing a girl needs to do to launch a business? Tiffany?
Well, I think the first thing she should do is to really just rapidly prototype the idea. Just put the idea down to paper, or if you're a coder, start coding it a little bit. Put it down so that ultimately you have something that you can show to others. You have that idea, get everyone's feedback, start to incorporate that feedback if it makes sense and is aligned with your long-term vision for what you think the business will ultimately accomplish. Let
me ask you a question, because one of the things my daughter, my middle girl, we just finished rounds of colleges, and she's picked her college. She wants to go into journalism. And what I've noticed, it seemed like whatever college we were at, coding has become the buzzword in education. Even if you are not going into, and I'd like both of your opinions on this, even if you're not going into, say, a technical field, should girls and boys take coding?
I think it's absolutely life-changing as a skill to know how to code, to build a product that can help so many millions of people from just one mind, I think is incredible. So definitely if it's something that they can take it and learn how to code. It definitely changed my life. And I didn't take a class, so you can definitely teach yourself. I used a PDF called Ruby on Rails tutorial by Michael Hartle, and that was the PDF that enabled me to learn everything.
Okay, and what do you think?
And I think coding is a means to solving problems. I think it's now a new tool that we have. If there's a problem in the world and we want to solve it, we can solve it with coding, with technology. And so it's almost like having the skill of another language and having that leg up, right? And that ability to help solve. That's how I think of it.
Well, you guys are great examples of girl starters. I mean, I think you were destined to do this and help all these young women and young men. I think families can watch this thing together, and everybody can pick something about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. We hope even young men will go to girlstarter.com and be inspired to build.
That's right.
We really want that.
We want you to watch TLC, Girl Starter, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Then you can stick around after the show, join the entire cast for the Girl Starter wrap-up, live streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouNow. And you can talk directly with the girls at the links on your screen. Make sure you visit girlstarter.com for bonus content, the complete Girl Starter curriculum, and even Girl Starter gifts, GIFs. Tiffany, what do you say? Is it GIF? GIF, okay.
It's a GIF. I've been calling it.
I've been calling it a GIF.
Honestly, we had that debate at our team too.
Why won't somebody settle this once and for all? You've got to get it settled because it's what is it? GIF? GIF? It's spelled G-I-F. Then there's Giphy or Jiffy. I keep thinking the Jif is the peanut butter.
It's the peanut butter.
Jiffy is the popcorn. Come on, that's not very high tech. Oh, GIF. Anyway, that's it. We're all wrapped up. Don't forget, Girl Starter, TLC, Friday night, 7 o'clock, premiere episode. You will be hooked.